We believe health is the foundation that unlocks freedom. The freedom to live fully, to be an asset and not a burden, and to chase what truly matters. Through daily practices and proven frameworks, we are here to help you build deep health, find lasting peace, and live with your heart on fire. Welcome to the chase. Hello and welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in this week and every week. I've missed you. We're doing something a little different. This time around, I'm going to play with this. It's going to be a bit of an experiment over the next couple months. But I wanted to play with putting together at the end of every month, or at least the next couple months, a best of episode, a look at the episodes that we've released in that month. We're going to pull out some short segments from each one of those episodes, just as a way to bubble up some of the moments that are perhaps really indicative of the broader conversation, or more likely something that I thought really stood out and was particularly interesting and worth a quick revisit. Let me know what you think. Again, I'm going to experiment with this, see what this feels like over the next couple of months. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. I appreciate that. Also, this might be a wonderful hint, tip. It might be a great episode to share with a friend or a colleague or a cousin who you think might enjoy Chasing Excellence, might enjoy the conversations we have here, the mindset we are trying to develop here. This episode might be a great way to say, hey, this is a sampler. This is a little taste of what Chasing Excellence is all about. You might get a good sense of it, and you might decide to tune in. And we thank you in advance every time you share the show with somebody. Before we jump into the episode itself, I'll be honest. If you listen on Spotify, I don't know if you knew this. I knew about it, but I kind of forgot about it. You can leave comments on episodes in Spotify now, which I think is great. I haven't really been paying attention to them, and for some reason I remembered before recording this little intro. So I just wanted to read a couple of the comments that we got in April. And as we do these over the next couple of months, I'm going to do this as well because I think it's fun and I love hearing from you folks, and I love bubbling up some of your comments, especially the nice ones. Mostly the nice ones. I don't like bubbling up the mean ones. Not that we get a lot of mean ones, but these comments, we got a couple comments on the episode, What Makes a Worthy Challenge, that we released this month. And this is from Vinicius. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I doubt I am. He says, what a necessary episode, my friends. Just loved your perspective on worthy challenges, Ben. The ones that demand your very best self when no one is watching, when there's no ego involved. And yes, you definitely don't need to chase them. They are already chasing you every single day. Thank you for this episode. On the same episode from Chris, thank you for this episode. This has helped me frame my goals. After listening to this, I realized I've been setting myself up for failure as I have been trying to be extremely successful in all areas of my life, not realizing I was setting goals that are in conflict to each other. Thank you to both of you for leaving those comments. And then one more on the episode, why your motivation to get fit might be your biggest obstacle, which is a conversation we had with Mr. Mark England. And this comment is from Charles. I absolutely enjoyed this conversation. Charles, I did too. I love talking to Mark England, and we're going to hear from him here shortly. So if you listen on Spotify, leave us a comment after you listen to an episode. Let us know what you think. Let us know of any questions you've got. Let us know of some wisdom you may want to share yourself. And thank you in advance for it. All right, let's get into this week's episode. The first one we put out this month was called From Autopilot to Crash Landing, the 7 Habits of Highly Ineffective People. We put it out on April 1st. We talked about the key habits that lead to personal ineffectiveness and how we can recognize and shift away from them in our daily lives. The segment we're about to listen to is from habit number 6 of ineffective people, which is to go alone.
So first off, alone, both of us enjoy our alone time.
Yep.
It is
sometimes
not
too much.
Right. It is. Yep. So to be effective, right? That's what we're kind of saying. And effective, to be ineffective. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're ineffective, you're doing this by yourself. Yep. Like, that's just the deal. What are you trying to affect? And even if you are going off into your cabin in the woods, or you're going to your wherever it is to do your thing, and you're going to come out and reveal this masterpiece, you're going to reveal this innovation, you're going to reveal this impactful development, whatever it is, you'll get there faster, farther, and with more fulfillment if you do it with others. Mm-hmm. And that's the idea. It's like even the geniuses of the world, the Jobses, the Bezos or whoever it might be, or back in the day, Edison, they didn't do these things alone. They were crazy effective. They may build more than anything anybody else has, but they did it with teams. They've all done it with teams. And that's the idea, is that ineffective people believe that you need something done, you got to do it yourself. Alone is farther, faster, lighter, and that's just not the case. Mm-hmm. They think teamwork slows them down, and it doesn't. They think asking for help is a weakness, and it's not. When they see others as competition instead of a way to collaborate. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's ineffective people go alone, whereas the other people collaborate.
There's this great term that I heard years ago. It's from, I believe, the musician Brian Eno, and he coined this idea called a scenius. So instead of a genius, this idea of a scenius, so the combination of genius and scene. And his point was just what you're laying out, which is that even the people who we believe through storytelling and lore and history have come out the other side as appearing to have done these magical things all by themselves. It's actually the case that they were inside of, again, this term, this scenius, of people doing these kinds of things, of people pursuing some kind of challenge, whatever those challenges might be, whether it's Silicon Valley, whether it's, the idea of a scenius, to me, a great example of it is Northern California, when Greg Glassman decided to make people do thrusters and pull-ups. Yes, it was Greg Glassman, and maybe he was alone in a room when he came up with like, hey, if I combine these two things. But we were around in those years, and we know that it wasn't just Greg doing these things. There was this whole crew of people, this whole scenius of people who, without them, Greg would have just been admittedly a slightly crazy guy who had these ideas about making people do thrusters and pull-ups and work out so fast that they wanted to throw up, right? And so I just think that this is such an important thing to remember for people like me who instinctually would like to go fast and go alone, that it's almost never the case that the thing you're admiring or the people you're admiring did that. It's much more likely that they were part of a scenius, that they were part of a crew, that they were surrounded by people who pushed them and who they pushed, right? We had that great episode on building your crew. Our crew helps keep us healthy, but it also pushes us in the direction that we want to go if we can design and build that crew with some amount of intention.
I missed that part, but the scene part of scenius, and I almost feel like it should be like teamness, but
scene, like, hey, this is a cool scene. It's like probably like an old school way of saying like, hey, this group of people that hang out.
Scene, like you've been seen.
No, sorry. Like no, scene, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Scene, like SCENE. Yeah. Like, hey, this group of people that hang out in that kind of place and do that kind of thing.
It's, yes, together there's this level of, if you go alone, you're never asking for mentorship. You're never asking for feedback. You're never looking for outside perspectives. It's alone. It's a solo endeavor. And without those things, we just can't grow. We can't be as impactful as we possibly could. Mm-hmm. So I think it's exactly right. Yeah, the team thing. Like, it's one of my biggest values. The thing that I want to do almost more than anything else is just be a part of a high-performing team. Yeah. It's the thing that like lights me up is when we're all pushing and passionate and building and creating and challenging each other. It's doing impactful work. That's why I've become an entrepreneur, is because I want to be able to have control over the people, the teams that I work with. And it's a thing that I've set up both my businesses to be about, is like to hire and work with great people.
I also just think it's because we were talking about ego before and self-protection. I also think that the impulse or the desire to go alone, we can intellectualize it and say, oh, it's because I can go fast, I'm light, I'm nimble, I can adjust, I can pivot, etc. But I think of more often than not, the desire to go alone is the fear of the feedback, the fear of the needing to explain yourself, the fear of somebody else's idea might be better than yours. And then you've got to live with that idea of like, maybe I'm not as good at this as I thought I was. Maybe I'm not the kind of leader. I'm not the kind of programmer. I'm not the kind of coach that I thought I was, because now that I'm in this team, I'm being forced to level up, back to the idea of living on autopilot. I thought I was good. I thought I could just ride this and I wouldn't need to worry about other people. But now that I'm on this team, I recognize that I've got some uncomfortable things to do in the sense of I've got to get better at this. I've got to get less reactive, right? And so being on a crew, being like truly on a crew or on a team, it exposes all of your weaknesses. And if you can convince yourself to go it alone, really what you're doing is saying, I don't want those weaknesses exposed, and I'd rather trade effectiveness for safety.
You know, you hit on one of my triggers or weak spots as you were kind of laying that out, which is I'm all about a team and I love that. But one of the things that I find tiring, and it's a reason that I do enjoy the solo pursuit, which I know I have to, is this necessity of when you're on a team of having to explain your vision, your motive. Like, it's like, dude, I got it. It's in, and it makes you want to be the dictator. It makes you want to be the person, just like, not delegate, just like go like this. Don't question, because it's tiring and it's exhausting. And I think that you're pointing out exactly right, is that's the thing that a lot of us convince ourselves is the reason to go alone. Mm-hmm. But we're never going to build something of real purpose and call it your life, right? Like, forget about like the product, but think of your family. Like, you can't do this thing without the others.
That's such a good point.
Right? It's
do what I say. Just go to bed.
Right. Exactly.
Our next episode of April came out on April 8th. It was called Why Your Motivation to Get Fit Might Be Your Biggest Obstacle. We were joined by friend of the show, Mark England, head coach and co-founder of a company called Enlifted. He joined us to talk about how we can transform our mindset around fitness from a place of punishment to one of celebration and empowerment. And in the conversation, we had a little sidetrack where we talked about how those of us who are in the position of influencing and helping kids, whether parents or teachers or coaches, how we can help our kids grow up without the fear of not being good enough, this concept of atelophobia, how we can help them grow up to be less afflicted by atelophobia than perhaps we ourselves are, or the folks that we know are. I really love this part of the conversation. I love this whole conversation itself. And this part of the conversation bubbled up to me as worthy of resharing, admittedly, because this conversation, this part of the conversation, sparked the idea for what is going to be my second kids book, which I've been working on since we had this conversation with Mark. So again, this is important to me. This is why I keep thinking about it and why I think it's perhaps worth resharing. So here you go. Just to maybe close the loop of where atelophobia comes from. Both Ben and I are parents. How do you recommend, if it is something that is inadvertently handed down from generation to generation, how do we, as best we can, break the cycle so that it's not something that we then hand on to our kids, even if it is something that we struggle with ourselves? What can we look out for and maybe put in place whatever might be the natural inclination?
Great question. 2 answers. We'll go with a general practice first. So for whatever reason, ages 5 to 10, and we get asked this a lot, hey, this is awesome and it's good for me, and I also want to share this with my kids. Ages 5 to 10, a wins journal. Okay, a wins journal, and it's super easy. Get a piece of paper and write in a full sentence. Again, half sentences, again, I don't make the rules. Half sentences and bullet points don't summon the magic. It's not enough words. It's not enough detail. One sentence on one page per day of something that your child did well. And then they write it and they read it, and that's it. It takes probably a minute. And within not a long amount of time, a short amount of time, it usually turns into a ceremony of sorts. We just wrapped up dinner and it's time to go wash up for bed. Let's get our wins, or maybe you do it at the breakfast table. They'll start enforcing it. And so what that does is it trains them to see themselves as good enough. So they're showing themselves and they're sharing a win with themselves and yourself. And it gets them to be able to give themselves some credit. That was one of the biggest parts of the workshops that we were doing this summer, is that most people have a 3rd degree black belt in the art of deflecting, minimizing, dismissing a compliment coming from someone else to themselves. It's on a whole other level when I have to give myself credit for something that I've done. No, you need a tool to do that. It's a pen and a piece of paper and how to get the breath in there. You need a shoehorn and a crowbar and a acetylene torch. Because most people, they're just hell-bent on not giving themselves some credit. And that goes back to the conversation about mindset. Most people think mindset is goal setting and shit-talking yourself all the way through it till you get it done. There's so much more than that. There's so much more than that, and you can share that with your kids. It will raise their psychological and emotional immunity, which I find interesting to think about. If I get sick once a month, something's up with my immunity. If I go out and get on social media and every time I see a post that I don't like, I'm all riled up and I can't talk myself down for a day or two, that's a telltale sign of a low psychological and emotional immunity. And most people's, like kids, it's going down, like in the wrong direction. There's that, and then the good old-fashioned soft talk challenge. Yep. Here's this again. These words, everybody, and I'm happy to read them off.
Yeah,
Ben can or Patrick.
Go for it, Mark.
Okay, cool. And these words are very, 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 probably, there's the joke, in your language, in your spouse's language. And remember, language is an inheritance. Think about that. That's wild. If you want to gift your children a better storytelling device, because that's what language is, then make some seemingly small improvements in your language, and they're going to pick up on that in some form or fashion, especially if you make it if you gamify it, as in put these words on the fridge and leave them there, they'll start correcting you. And so once again, Alan Watts, you got your kids thinking about their thinking. You got their kids thinking about the words they're using. They're not going to learn that in English class, in public school, when it comes to their mindset, the story that I'm telling themselves. Most people have no way to put the fire out in their head before they, share it with everybody else. I've call me old-fashioned. I think it's very cool when someone can do that. What do you mean? I need them to. And because projection keywords, no, wait a minute, I don't need them to, I need me to. Ooh, yeah, that tastes a little bit different. And the breath unlocks, and you look up, and wow, there's something else. Things are looking up, and I just saved myself an argument with someone else that I was about to suck into it because I need them to respect me more. No, dude, you need to respect yourself more. And you need to respect your time more. They're not wasting your time. You're wasting your time waiting for them to change. And I've saved myself a lot of time being able to do that. That's a skill. That's a skill. And so the words, everybody, if you want to play along, I'm going to read these out. To do it well, take a clean sheet of paper, write these words 5 times larger than you would normally write them. It's going to get the attention of your reticular activating system. There's another big word. And then put it up on your fridge and leave it there for 90 days. Okay, 90 days, you'll have come in contact with it on the daily, and it will be, here's a good word, whether it's your gym or your family, it'll be in the culture. So Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And if you want to improve the culture of something, in my opinion, language is as important as environment. How the environment is set up, what language is promoted in an environment, what language is looked down upon. I was thinking about this morning, Ben, from your book. I can't remember what athlete it was, but someone had a tantrum about something. And they went outside, and you walked up to them and you said, we don't do that here. That's checking the culture. And when you give people a way to check their own input into a culture, that's a big deal. So, yeah, those are my 2 answers on how to gift your children a better language, is to make some improvements on yours. Okay, and bring it into the family, gamify it. All you just said should, and then get them to write a wins journal. And they don't have to do it from 5 to 12. If they did that for 6 months, that would improve the quality of the story they told themselves for the rest of their life.
Let's pause to say thanks to a few sponsors, and we'll be right back to the conversation. We're brought to you by the Defender, the modern adventurer's vehicle that seamlessly blends rugged capability with cutting-edge technology. Visit LandRoverUSA.com to explore the full Defender lineup and find your perfect match. Imagine having eyes everywhere, above, below, and all around your vehicle. That's exactly what you get with the Defender's revolutionary 3D surround cameras and clear sight ground view technology, letting you see underneath your vehicle to navigate any obstacle with confidence. The next generation Pivi Pro infotainment system transforms every single journey, whether you're exploring the city or venturing off the beaten path. With 3 distinct models, the nimble Defender 90, the versatile 110, and the spacious 130 with seating for up to 8 people, there's a Defender perfect for every explorer. Experience luxury appointments throughout, ensuring you adventure in absolute comfort. Head to LandRoverUSA.com to explore the full Defender lineup and discover your next adventure companion. We're sponsored this time around by Momentous, creators of the Momentous 3, the essential daily supplement routine for optimal health and performance. Visit livemomentous.com and use the code EXCELLENCE for 35% off your first subscription. Let me tell you why the Momentous 3, their protein, creatine, and omega-3 supplements have become absolute non-negotiables in my daily routine. Their grass-fed whey protein isolate is sourced from European dairy farmers with the highest standards, making it perfect for muscle recovery and growth. Their creatine uses CreaPure, the purest form of creatine monohydrate available, which is crucial for both physical and cognitive performance. And yes, this applies to, of course, both men and women. And their omega-3s deliver a potent 1,600 milligram combined EPA and DHA in a perfect 1-to-1 ratio, supporting everything from brain function to recovery. What I love most is their commitment to purity. No gums, no fillers, no artificial flavors or sweeteners ever. Visit livemomentous.com. Use the code EXCELLENCE for 35% off your first subscription to start your own daily routine with the Momentous 3. Okay, now let's get back to the show. All right, let's keep on going. The next episode we put out was on April 15th called What Makes a Worthy Challenge? The Truth About Goals, Growth, and Everyday Excellence. We talked about what constitutes a quote-unquote worthy challenge and how pursuing those challenges can contribute to our personal growth and development. In this segment, talk about balancing the big challenges in life with the everyday challenges that nobody will ever see, but that matter so much to our fulfillment. This was a cool conversation to me and for me because I came in thinking we were going to talk about one thing. Ben zigged when I thought we were going to zag. And so the conversation was really about, was an attempt to find the middle ground between his angle at worthy challenges and my angle at worthy challenges. And it's not often that we have a conversation where we're kind of coming at an idea from completely different angles. So it was fun to have, and it was fun to put out into the world. And I hope you enjoyed it. And here is a small segment from it.
We are nothing more than the sum of what we give our attention to. So we've talked about like, show me your priorities. I can tell you your priorities by looking at your calendar. I can also do it by seeing how you act in the moments of free time and how you respond to. It's a level of awareness and discipline about the tiny minutia that would go otherwise unrecognized. The challenge is when you're not feeling like it, you're in a bad mood, still giving your wife a hug before you leave the door to go out in the morning. These are like real challenges that the sum of the parts are so much greater than the whole, or greater than you pouring your attention into manufactured challenges. And I get it. Like, I loved Comfort Crisis, and I love the idea of Misogis, and I love the idea of putting big, meaningful challenges and, you know, as Jesse Isler talks about it, like these quarterly events that are, or yearly movers, like I'm going to do an ultra marathon. Like, yes, I get it. Huge, big, awesome, amazing challenge that will help define potentially a year or maybe a decade of your life. Also, not that interested if you can't pay attention to the little things. So what my thesis is that worthy challenges don't mean big. Worthy challenges can be these tiny, tiny things that to me take more discipline than the big ones. Because the big ones, there's the big ego attached to it. There's the big thing where I have to carve out this time, segment it out. I'm going to run a marathon, so that means I'm going to go do these things. But you having a really great relationship, like you not snoozing every morning, hitting the snooze button, whatever these little things are that actually like make up the sum of our lives are really worthy challenges. Like, if this is like just read the Daily Stoic every morning and just put that, whatever that one day's passages into practice that day, that is such a worthy challenge. But no one's ever going to know about it, which makes it way more challenging, way more worthy in my mind than you getting to be able to post about it on your life's resume. I did a 7-day silent retreat. Cool. That's a really big challenge that you get to brag about, boost your ego, as opposed to the work that you've done every single day to be super, super present with your loved ones. That to me is like such a worthy challenge. And or taking care of your body in a way that is healthy and not obsessive. Wow, like crazy, huge, amazing. Probably even more challenging than trying to run a sub 3:30 marathon, because it allows you to be obsessive. It allows you to have imbalance. So this is like maybe the coming around the flank position of chasing excellence. Like what we're saying is a life of purpose and poise and balance. That's what we're saying is the things that we should be chasing. Fulfillment. Like what is the thing, the deathbed experience we're going to look back upon and go, thank God I spent my time doing that. I don't know how many people are going to say, the cliche, time in the office. I also don't know how many people are going to say qualified for semifinals. Right? I also don't know how many people are going to say whatever it is, got down to 9% body fat. Did that 7-day silent retreat. Maybe that is a thing because it leads into so much knowledge you gain in other ways that you can bring to the small little things. But that's the way I would approach this, is the most worthy challenges are the ones that you're going to not be able to shine a spotlight on. It is going to be the tiny little things that go otherwise unnoticed in our everyday lives.
Episode 4 of the month of April was called The Raised Hand Rule, How to Know Who You Can Help. This was in response to a listener question who was curious what we thought about a situation he was in which an old friend of his that he had lost contact with and who had gotten into perhaps a rough crowd had committed suicide. And the listener, Cannon, was wondering if we thought he could have done something different. So in this segment from that conversation, we are talking about how it's our belief that we want to help. We believe it's our responsibility to help, but only those folks who first raise their hand in some way, shape, or form to say, I need help and I'm ready for help and I'm ready for change. So here's that segment. So in Cannon's case, all I think about is, because all you can do is, and it's his question is, because I've done anything to help my friend. The only thing he could have done is not try to fix it. Not try to remove him from the friend group, not try to rehab him. Like all he could have done in any sort of realistic sense is he could have been present enough such that his friend could have said, Cannon, I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. Because to your point, only when that happens are you in a position where you can actually affect an individual, where you can actually have a conversation, where you can actually help them. And so if there is somebody in our lives who are like that, the best we can do is to just simply make sure that you are present enough that if they are ready, when they are ready, you might be the person they reach out to. You can't make them reach out. You can't make them want to change. We've talked about that 1,000 times. But you might be able to remind them that if they need you, I'm here. And that might be the best we can do for 99% of the people in our lives. I'm here. If you need me, I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to listen. If I can help you, I'm here for it. But beyond that, anything beyond that, the belief, the false belief that we have is that it's our job to fix people, that we can ever understand what his friend was going through. Cannon couldn't understand what his friend was going through. It's impossible. All he could have done was be present enough that maybe a phone call or a text would have said, hey, and maybe that would have happened before the decision that ultimately was happened. But any more than that is unrealistic. And it's not helpful to believe that our jobs are to fix people who we believe need fixing.
Yeah, I think that's I find myself in that situation a fair amount where people are, I've dedicated my entire adult life to health and nutrition and fitness, and it's a big conversation at cocktail parties or get-togethers. People talk about it a lot, and I find myself not wanting to engage in those conversations. I think for that reason is I don't want to try to change you or do anything else. And one of the biggest reasons I think is that I know I haven't put in the time to be present with that person to understand them truly enough. And I'm cool to sit on the sidelines and just listen to the conversations. And even when they reach out and even when they ask, sometimes I'll give them my take on things. But to your point, and this is the big one, like, I think that Cannon's big thing is like, I made a conscious decision not to go to that person because I deemed his lifestyle toxic, and I want to surround myself with people that lift me up. And if I put myself in that environment, I know that would have been negative. I respect that decision. I think that is a brave thing to do. And that's what I'm saying is you don't have to have the responsibility to go there and even be present. It's not our responsibilities. And that might sound like as a person that is out there trying to change the world and make it a better place, I also understand where to put the effort. And it's not everywhere. It is not everywhere. Now, if you had told me that this friend was your best friend, and this friend was reaching out to you and texting you and asking you if you could talk every third day, and if they could, different conversation, right? Because the other part that you know about me is I want to lean into the people that are raising their hand. I don't want to convince anybody to come and listen to this show. That's not what we do. That's not what I find fulfillment in. But the people that are here and the people that walk through my gym door, I see them as people that are raising their hand saying like, I want help. And it's not help like I'm lost, I don't know what to do. It's like, coach me. I want that. I want you to be my coach.
It's saying I'm ready to change.
I'm ready. Exactly. They walk through the door. They've done their job. If this person that is struggling reaches out and goes, hey, Cannon, hey, Ben, I'd love to chat. I'm going through a tough time. If we push that away, that's a different level of decision-making. Very, very different than I moved back to my hometown. I heard that this guy that I grew up with, that I was friends with in middle school, and we used to go and, have some beers on the railroad tracks and, but I haven't talked to him in 15 years. And I heard he went on this other group and I haven't seen him. I've been back in town for 3 years, still haven't seen him yet. And I wonder if I should reach out to him. Different conversation than somebody raising their hand. Once they raise their hand, that's where I feel like I have a responsibility. That is where somebody at the cocktail party afterwards goes, hey, I could use your help. Hey, I'm struggling at home. I don't feel good about my health. I feel like I don't have the energy to invest in my family. Boom. Like then it's game on. Coach mode. Let's go. Before that, I'm gonna try to go towards where I can invest my energy and resources, because selfishly, it's where I feel the fulfillment.
In our final episode in the month of April, we were joined by our friend Chris Irwin of a project called Rare Sense, which you can learn more about at raresense.com. Chris has been on the show a number of times before to talk about an idea he's got called the mind killers. And in this episode, we broke down one of those mind killers, a big one, fear, and its countermeasure, openness. In this segment that we're going to listen to, we're talking about why it's so hard for us to call fear, why we hide from it, why we give it different names, and why it's worthwhile to call it what it is, face it for what it is, and then respond to it in a way that is helpful. Before we jump into it, one more reminder, let me know what you think of this segment. Find some means and methods to reach out to me, or just leave a comment on Spotify. Nice little bring back from the beginning of the episode. Leave me a comment on Spotify. Let me know what you think of this format. If you think we should continue doing it after the next couple of months, I would love to know, or again, find any way to reach out to me, respond to any of the emails we send out at chasingexcellence.email, find me on Instagram, whatever. Thank you in advance. Here's the segment from the Turtle Principle. I remember hearing Tony Robbins once say that stress is the achiever's word for fear. I bring that up because it strikes me that everything that you just said, Chris, it's like, whether it's anxiety, whether it's stress, we don't ever want to use the word fear, even if, to your point, when you really get down to it, that's the right emotion. That's the right word to describe the reaction that you're having, that we're having, that we have when it does afflict us. Why do you think we are so hesitant? You mentioned it before, the soldiers you've worked with, pointing out like you're in a fear state. Mm-hmm. Why don't we ever that's actually very helpful to me, listening to you talk, being able to identify it in my own head, in my own experience, saying, oh, I used to think that might have been depression. I used to think that might have just been me being an anxious person, but really it was fear. And that's actually really clarifying. So why is it so hard for us to be able to label the thing as what it is?
Because of stigma around these words, right? Fear is a weakness. That's how we typically think of it. The same way we think of like crying as a weakness. It's like it makes us uncomfortable because of the stigma around it. So if you tell someone you're afraid, it's like you're a pussy or something like that, right? That's how, especially bravado, macho, alpha type dudes and women as well, I suppose. Like it's like, no, fuck that. I'm not afraid, right? And I think it really just boils down to that, But that's why I think it's so important to talk about it's a biological thing. It's biological, And here's the thing, as we get in, let's kind of go into the countermeasure piece of this, because it speaks to this point, which is, I think most people figuring this out for me, this countermeasure to this specifically, took a long time. Because like I said, this was the hardest one for me and still is. Again, like you never win this game. You get better, but I have to go back to these tools. And it happened to me this morning, actually, where I had a little thing going on with me that was like making me dizzy. And like I could just feel for whatever triggered it, who knows, where I had to go back to some tools. I did some visualization. I did some calming stuff to like kind of and like I'm fine right now, But I had to spend a lot of time with it because we come from these circles where we think of the counter to fear as like bravery, like courage, right? When you think of like, whoa,
toughness,
being courageous, no. And the reason that's not right is because you have to be afraid to be courageous. Like, right? It's like, it's not the opposite. It's something you do in spite of being afraid. If you're not afraid, then you're just psychotic. Like if you're running into gunfire and you're not afraid, you're a psycho. You're not, you know what I mean? You're not brave. Like you're just a psychopath. So that's not it. And that's why I think a lot of people from these lines of work struggle with it so much, is because they're used to that. They're brave. Cops are brave. Firefighters are brave. Absolutely. Right. But they're hypervigilant. They're living in this chronic fear state because they don't have an actual counter to this. And so I was kind of going down the road of this, and I learned this through these various like neural retraining things where you sort of unwind. You have to like reprogram your subconscious, because it becomes subconscious. That's the thing, right? It's like your body just goes, okay, cool. This is what we're doing all the time, right? This is where we live now. And so you have to consciously overwrite that with things. And all of those programs basically are about calming your limbic system down, visualizing like a place where you're very relaxed and parasympathetic, and just doing it over and over again to kind of reset this baseline. So I started off with this kind of mindset of like curiosity. Like that's the kind of counter is like, because certainly becoming interested in your thoughts and everything is part of it. But there's sort of like there's an underlying like modality to even that. And curiosity kind of goes into that stagnation piece. And it's this openness. I had a guy I was working with some detox stuff, and he's a very intuitive guy. And he would say to me, dude, you need to be more vulnerable. Like you have this like shell around you all the time. And I totally didn't know what he meant for the longest time. I was like, what do you mean I'm vulnerable? I like cry on Instagram and stuff like that. Not what he was saying. It's this willingness to be like harmed almost. It's this like you have to feel safe. And the way you feel safe is by being open. It's very hard to describe in a way. But if you think about like a turtle protects itself it's got a big shell, and it protects itself by hiding in the shell, right? And that's what you're like when you're in that state. Like your subconscious is shelled. It's armored, and that's what so many people are now. I've got armor on at all times to protect myself from what other people say, from what might happen, from the news, from people that talk bad about me on Instagram. And you have to like it's like just like take the armor off. Right. And like I like that analogy because it really works with people that are in those like military, special operations, firefighters. You have a uniform that you literally put on to go into battle. We put on body armor, we put on helmets, firefight, protective equipment, all this shit. But when you're done and you get back to the base or whatever, like the fire station, you take all that shit off. But we don't take the emotional part of that off. We then still live in it, and we go back to like doom scrolling on social media and watching news that just makes us like, oh my God, I should be worried about that. You have to do the same thing. And so, yeah, you have to open that up. And there's ways to do that physiologically, and there's ways to do it sort of intellectually and emotionally too.
Thank you very much for tuning into the show. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening or watching so you do not miss another episode. For more frameworks and daily practices, visit chasingexcellence.email. And don't forget to tap the link in the show notes for today's full listener guide, where we break down the key ideas and provide actionable steps to help you put them into practice. Until next time, keep building health, finding freedom, and living with your heart on fire.